Principal Matters Podcast, episode 226. Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, where each week I bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your own school leadership. This week, I'm going to talk about Principal Matters Year in Review and share with you part 2 of my conversation about the power of masterminds with my guest, Jeff Springer. Before I do, though, I want to first bring you some comments from a mastermind member, Kimberly Miles, principal at East Gresham Elementary School in Gresham, Oregon, sharing about why she loves being a part of a Principal Matters Mastermind.
Hi, Will. On a recent podcast, you gave what I thought was a perfect definition of a mastermind. You shared a mastermind is like a consistent family meal on a weekly basis with people you really trust and enjoy. I would wholeheartedly agree with you. The professional relationship we develop together in this type of environment allows us to grow and stretch as an educator. In this trusting environment, we share our challenges, listen to our mastermind colleagues, ask important reflective questions pertaining to these obstacles, which often then gives us insights, new perspectives, and possible next steps. Having a core network of mastermind friends helps you realize you are not alone, and I believe together we are becoming a more thoughtful learning leaders.
Before I jump this week into part 2 with Dr. Jeff Springer about the power of masterminds, I just first want to wish you a happy new year. As you're listening to this podcast at the time of its release, some of you may be getting this a day or two before the new year, and some of you may be getting it afterwards. But some of you have been readers of my blog or listeners to my podcast for a long time, and others may be brand new to this community. I began blogging in 2013 and podcasting in 2016. And at the beginning of my blogging journey, I had just been named Oklahoma's Assistant Principal of the Year. And I continued sharing blogs and podcasts as a high school principal later. And then in 2017, I began the full-time work I do now with my State Principals Association. Principal Matters, LLC, has always been and continues to be a passion project for me. I dedicate time in the evenings and weekends to writing and recording. And if I'm invited to present or keynote, I take vacation time from my full-time work, which means sometimes my availability is limited. To date, my blog posts have been downloaded 345,885 times, and my podcast episodes 495,784 times, which means on average between 2,000 to 2,500 education leaders are digesting my weekly posts. I've also had the privilege of publishing 3 books now: Principal Matters, Messaging Matters, and my newest book, Pause, Breathe, and Flourish. I like to think about how many students are being impacted by our collective learning here through the Principal Matters podcast. And if each member or listener of this podcast represents, let's say, 300 to 500 students, it's possible that we are influencing the lives of over 1 million students collectively. So whether you're a longtime subscriber or a first-time listener, I want to thank you for learning along with me this past year. It seems odd to be celebrating at the end of such a crazy and difficult year, but as I look back on the last 12 months, I'm amazed at the opportunities that I have seen for us to grow together through a global pandemic, through school shutdowns, through reopenings, through hybrid settings. I have so many people to thank for the wins of 2020 when it comes to Principal Matters, and these include my guests, my partners, my mastermind members, and executive coaching clients. So I just want to take a couple of minutes to say some thank yous. First of all, a special thanks to the 20 friends who shared on my podcast this year as guests, including Juan David Campan-Largo, Tim Elmore, Anthony Fisher, Marlena Gross-Taylor, DJ Klein, Jethro Jones, Jeremy Kubicek, Sonia Lopez Morales, Andrew McPeak, Patrick McLaughlin, Anthony Muhammad, Jenna Nelson, Don Parker, Brad Rutman, Carolyn Satin Bajaj, Jen Schwanke, Jeff Springer, Josh Stamper, William Stubbs, and Justin Thomas. Also, I had the privilege of managing 3 separate masterminds this year. So thank you to Kathy Blankenship, Anthony Fisher, Barbara Howley, Eric Harrison, and Terrence Simmons, all principals who were a part of my very first mastermind offerings. Over the summer of 2020, I switched to a free mastermind offering to help principals navigate school reopenings. And what a privilege it was to connect with education leaders from coast to coast. So a special shout out to those friends, Kim Dopker, Bridget Gates, Joy Wright, Dennis Shug, Eddie Triger, Jessica Johnson, Braden Savage, Eric Hoops, Sonia Lopez Morales, Kimberly Miles, Andrew O'Farrell, Sam Fuller, and Angie Garrison for the incredible learning that we accomplished together. And then this fall semester began a new mastermind offering with school leaders who were pivoting to some full-time virtual and some in-person options. And this mastermind group was a power-packed group of leaders from across the U.S. So thank you to my fall mastermind members, Samantha Bartram, Yolanda Dawson, Andrew O'Farrell, Aaron Igo, Kimberly Miles, and Jeff Springer for ending out 2020 with such amazing learning. Also, just a shout out to some partnerships. One of the most exciting moments of this year was the publishing of my 3rd book, Pause, Breathe, Flourish, Living Your Best Life as an Educator. My goal was to self-publish this book, but when my friend Jimmy Costas read the manuscript as a reviewer, he reached back with an offer to join him and Dr. Jeff Zuhl in publishing the book through Connect Ed Publishing. What an honor to collaborate with these 2 education leaders, and I hope you've picked up your copy. If so, I would love to see more reviews on Amazon if you have time to leave one. With my new book came some invitations to present on other podcasts in 2020, so I'm grateful to Justin Bader of Principal Center Radio, Joshua Stamper at Aspire Leadership, and Jethro Jones at Transformative Principal for hosting me on their podcasts this fall. You know, a global pandemic changes a lot of plans. And so my in-person events that I had planned were either canceled or switched to virtual offerings. So I'm so grateful to Sheila Vitale, Director of the Office of Ohio School Sponsorship, for an invitation to train select school leaders in Ohio this past semester through Principal Matters Academy, which we offered virtually. These monthly half-day trainings allowed us to dig deep into each of the essential roles of school leaders based on the 8 hats content that I've shared with education leaders for the past 8 years. In addition, I'm thankful for invitations that I had to present virtual sessions for friends at Tulsa Technology Center and Southern Nazarene University's Education Leadership Alumni Associations. In addition to masterminds and keynoting, I had select opportunities to connect with some amazing leaders through one-on-one coaching. So if you were a part of my one-on-one coaching this year, thank you for connecting and allowing me to learn together with you. So what's in store for 2021? I am so excited to share a new Pause, Breathe, Flourish study guide, which will be a companion for anyone wanting to lead a book study over the book Connect Ed. Will post that new resource after the new year. And also, I already have a few invitations for virtual presentations in the month ahead. My monthly virtual Principal Matters Academy training is continuing with Ohio education leaders, and my current mastermind group will continue through the new semester. Applications are open right now for anyone interested in additional offerings, as well as coaching with Dr. Jeff Springer, who's facilitating as a Principal Matters coach. If you're interested in any of the resources or trainings for your growth in the coming school year or for your own leadership teams, reach out to me by email at will@williamdparker.com or see links to my website at williamdparker.com. The best way to grow a community is by sharing with one another. So if you have found any value in learning together with me this past year, would you please take a moment to share this podcast or other ones with your friends? Also, please leave a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts, because when you do, the show becomes more visible to others. So thank you. For those of you who want to go back into the archives of this past year, the blog post that accompanies this podcast episode this week will just have a quick menu of all of the 2020 Principal Matters podcast episodes. So with that in mind, thank you again for participating in this year of growth, even in the midst of a crazy pandemic. I wish you all the best. And now I'm excited to transition to this week's part 2 conversation with the Power of Masterminds with Dr. Jeff Springer. This week, we're talking about the power of masterminds part 2 with my special guest, Dr. Jeff Springer. Dr. Jeff Springer is a repurposed principal, the former principal of the year from Texas, where he led Magnolia High School from 2002 to 2016. He lives in Montgomery, Texas with his wife of 38 years. They have 2 children and 2 grandchildren. And Jeff, it's always so exciting to see you. Welcome back to Principal Matters. You know, we were talking a little earlier about some of our exercise routines, and you had talked about the fact that both of us are kind of like, if we're going to run, it's the 3 to 5 mile route, because the older that you get, the more you have to like protect yourself as you're running. But outdoor activities.
Oh my gosh, outdoor! I just love to be, especially this time of the year in Texas. We're pretty blessed with some amazing weather in the fall. You know, it's kind of like our fall starts around Thanksgiving finally. So just being outside in the back porch with my wife every morning, you know, we look forward to a cup of coffee and listening to the birds and reading our devotional and just spending time together. So, and then, you know, of course, when my granddaughters are in town, that's typically my favorite outdoor activity at the park.
And I've seen some beautiful photos of your backyard with the incredible outdoor chimney, and that's a place I would love to start my morning. But I'm guessing right now, let's see, late fall in Texas, you probably have some pretty good weather going on down there right now.
It's not too bad. It was about 73 on Thanksgiving and sunny today and yesterday was a little rainy, and we're going to finally get a little bit of winter next week. But we have a fireplace out there, and so in Texas, when the temperature drops below 60, we find any excuse to turn that fireplace on. So
well, welcome back to the show, Jeff. And as this episode is coming out, we're stepping into the holidays. We are probably, by the time this episode comes out, we're looking at folks getting ready for Christmas break. So happy holidays to all of you listening out there. We hope that you're getting prepared for more time with your family and your community, because we know you've been working hard serving schools. Well, Jeff, last time we talked, we unpacked the power of masterminds, and we looked at the ways that the masterminds that you and I have been doing together with principals has helped them build community, engagement, transformation, collegiality. And I wanted to ask you to swing back with me for this episode to unpack how masterminds also for you are a way to play, and to set the stage for those who may not have listened to previous episodes with us. Talk a little bit, Jeff, about your dissertation and how you have researched how play can influence better outcomes for schools.
The question was the perception of secondary school principals and the role of play, PLAY, in building positive culture and setting the stage for that. And so, you know, not necessarily playfulness, but engagement. Some of the things we've talked about before with, you know, as on our last episode with community engagement and transformation and collegiality. So all of that is play. A mastermind is play in essence. The aspects of all of those things we spoke about, you know, adds to anticipation, you know, elements of surprise, and leads to the passion for why we do this in education, why we got into education, and why we continue to do it.
Jeff, you were kind enough to endorse my new book, Pause, Breathe, and Flourish. And at the end of that book, I had an epilogue on laughter and play. And you circled back with me while you were reading that book. And we talked about the fact that that was a chapter that resonated so much with the work that you do in encouraging leaders to look at the power of connecting in the work that they do. And the way you break that down is with an acronym. The P, the L, the A, the Y, they each stand for a different thing. Could you unpack that for just quickly for listeners? And then we're going to take some time. And I just want to apply that to how you've seen that happening in our mastermind work.
Yeah. Well, P stands for people. The question I ask a lot of times when I'm visiting with aspiring leaders or current leaders is, who are your people? Really identifying those people that could be in your inner circle, those people that could be a mentor or a coach, and generally are people that care about you and care about your path, your journey. And so it's important to surround yourself with and identify. That's a question that can, you talk about, pause, breathe and flourish. I mean, that right there, we know a lot of people, but really reflecting on who are those people that are 3 a.m. people, those people that you can rely on and come to mind immediately. And sometimes that's hard, and we don't pause enough to reflect on who those people are. And so I think that's real important. And then how do you love those people? How do people know that you work with or associate with, that you care about them? What are the ways that, that you show, that you are going to be there and that you have a belief in them, which motivates them to work beside you. And then which leads right into acknowledge. How do we acknowledge people, not just their outcomes, but how do we acknowledge the process? Also, looking at those difficult parts of your, areas where you have maybe fallen short, so you can make a plan to not repeat that same mistake. A lot of times I think we gloss over. It's easy to recognize or acknowledge those things that are obvious, but maybe looking a little bit deeper. And sometimes that means personally some hurt and pain and sorrow, and maybe having brutal conversations, looking at the hard facts and those kind of things. Sometimes self-reflection, self-awareness, those kind of things. And then finally, yearn. And I say this every time, I can't say the word without smiling. I think it just naturally turns, when you say the word yearn, it just makes me smile. And the question is what do you yearn for? What is your passion? What gets you out of bed in the morning when the opportunity clock goes off and your feet hit the ground? What's your purpose and what do you yearn for? And so essentially, people love, acknowledge, yearn. You do those things, you play, you're engaged, you're available for those things that we spoke about in our last podcast, to have community engagement, transformation, and collegiality.
Yeah. And what I love about that, Jeff, is how you've applied that philosophy to school leadership. And really it applies in every setting and any organization, any relationship. People love, acknowledge, and yearn. So let's take a minute and unpack how our participation in masterminding has contributed to those elements. How do you see those things operating within the context of 6 or 7 people who are meeting on a weekly basis for growth and collaboration?
Those that participate in a mastermind become your people. I mean, it offers, masterminds offers that connection, that discovery of your new people, and they become your people and you're part of your family and beyond the 1 hour. It's a broadening of your network, but again, a deeper opportunity for learning the perspective of others. It is again, that connection piece of discovering others that become your people.
And I'll just add, Jeff, one of the things that I remember a member saying when we were pulling these groups together, and sometimes these come through the applications that I get too, is that people are looking for others, just like you said, they're people. They're looking for a group of people who they feel like match their vision, their goals, their purpose for what they want to be doing. And maybe they're not finding that collaboration within their own school community, for instance, or maybe there's no one else around them that has the same responsibility. So even though they may have great people on their team, they just don't have anybody else who they can relate to in terms of, these are the tough decisions I'm having to make. And I want to talk to other people who are in the trenches making those same tough decisions. And so the mastermind provides them an opportunity for that authentic real relationship with other people like themselves who are, and this is why when we open these up to the application, we're looking for people who want to set goals. We're looking for people who want to grow. We're looking for people who are not happy with with the status quo. And so as a result, you're being able to immediately pull together with a group of people who share some really strong values in common, which I think is really powerful. We're not all the same. We have a lot of differences and variety among the members of our group, but we definitely hold in common this commitment to growth. And we also set norms on the front end too. Like what are the things that all of us are going to share in common that we want to accomplish as a group? And then we stay committed to those norms so that together we're reaching those goals. Any other thoughts on people before we move into your L?
No, I think that covers it. I think that really does. And I think that we may not initially or intentionally sign up for a mastermind with that intent, but that becomes very obvious quickly because of what you've described, the way you have set it up to be a risk-free, unconditional opportunity to share.
Let's unpack the L. And that word love it's a big word. It encompasses a lot, but I know that when you unpack it in the way that you've applied it in your research is just that commitment to one another, to show that you care deeply enough for each other that you're committed to the best in the people that surround you. How do you see that working out?
Well, we have so many opportunities to share, and I'm using the word opportunity over and over again, to share different parts of our, not only our leadership, but our life, as we alluded to. As we go through this process, naturally, we begin to learn more about the whole leader and not just on the job leader. And so that merging gives us opportunity to understand more where each other's coming from and our background and why we make decisions the way we do. Opportunity to mentor and to coach and to encourage and to exhort one another. The way you have it set up, I think you mentioned in the first podcast, alluded to the hot seat. When we put somebody in the hot seat, it's not a drill or a grill. It's really a listen and clarifying and a leaning into, and that's all aspects of loving, demonstrating our love, our care for our fellow mastermind family members. So it gives us, a renewal energy. I leave more energetic afterwards than even, and I've heard participants say this over and over again, that this is at the end of most of their professional day, and yet they may reluctantly log on, but they leave energized, and it's from their words, and I've heard that individually and collectively. And so you develop a deep appreciation for each mastermind member. It gives us an opportunity to practice our respect and our love for each other, which is going to hopefully be a model of how we respect and love those we work with.
Thanks, Jeff, for applying that. Because I know your philosophy also applies for the A, acknowledge. So unpack that for a little bit. What are some things that are happening within that mastermind where you see members both acknowledging success, but also pushing each other towards growth?
Yeah. Looking again where we might have fallen short, what lies before us, acknowledging the potential barriers or obstacles, looking at the process, acknowledging the process, acknowledging a need for change. A lot of times we go into something not really evaluating the possibilities that we might need to take a different direction. Other talents, sometimes one of us or another person that's not in the middle of the midst of those things that each individual's experiencing on a daily basis may see another talent in a person that they haven't, that they don't see in themselves. So we acknowledge those aspects. We also, in a lot of ways, acknowledge the needs of each individual.
And then how would you apply your yearn to that why? Because I know that comes back to the whole idea of your purpose.
Again, a lot of our words, renewal of our passions, okay, to reset our day, our thought pattern, our belief system. One of our members said this, shared on the Voxer yesterday, how she reset, kind of like the first day of a new year, an opportunity to reset and then repurpose, which is one of, as you know, one of my favorite words. Besides being a recovering principal, I'm a repurposed principal. Getting in touch again, once again, each week with what we yearn for and what we have deep passion for.
Thank you, Jeff, for unpacking that, because I know that whole concept is something that you have used in your work. You've shared it with so many other leaders as a way for them to have a concept of how they approach their own leadership too. And I wanted to circle back to something that we talked about last episode, which is, as we're looking at 2021, the possibility of opening up an additional mastermind or two, depending on your time and availability. But I've been leading this mastermind, and you have offered to step out and create an additional offering for Principal Matters listeners who may want to connect with your leadership through a mastermind. And obviously that application process would come through me, and I would be a part of participating in setting that up and helping begin that. But I'm excited, Jeff, about the opportunity to expand the mastermind beyond just when I'm available. And so I just wanted to hand you the mic for a minute there as well, and just talk about what are you most excited about when it comes to the possibility of opening up a different strand in coaching as a Principal Matters coach.
That last statement, it excites me alone, just being associated with Principal Matters, and to expand that, because I know the busyness of the role of a campus leader. To be able to have more offerings with more flexibility for more of our people, our new people, to discover more people, to apply more opportunities for aspiring and current leaders to be a part of something like we're doing, to replicate that, more opportunities, more offerings during the week. That excites me.
Yeah, it excites me too. And so if you're listening to this and you've been thinking about your new year, how are you going to reach those goals that you've set for yourself? Let me just encourage you to consider how a mastermind might be a way to help facilitate that growth. And if you are interested, you can go to my website at williamdparker.com. And if you click on Mastermind, the link there's an application process. We'd love to hear from you. You can also just reach out to me by email at will@williamdparker.com, and I'll be glad to correspond with you. But as Jeff and I are looking at the new year, we are excited to continue the mastermind offering that I've been able to facilitate weekly, but we wanted to expand this. And so as we are looking at the possibility of offering additional times with Dr. Jeff Springer as a Principal Matters coach, we would love to hear from you, because if there is a time available with Dr. Springer that maybe is not available when I'm leading one, then this would be a great opportunity for us to expand these offerings. Jeff, I think one of the greatest joys you and I both have known from leadership is when you can begin something that other people take and run with, and they can begin to duplicate and replicate those things way beyond you. And so one of the greatest joys I have, and one of the dreams that I have for our mastermind group, is just watching the development of each of the people within our group, and even the development of learning and relationships that happens outside of our meetings, just the collaboration and the professional learning, and watching the amazing talents and gifts of everybody in that room. And you're one of those people who has participated in this group, helped facilitate our book studies, and who's had lots and lots of experience in leading and coaching. And so I'm so excited. Well, as we wrap up this week, I just want to remind you, Principal Matters listeners, as you are looking at your new year and you're thinking about your goals, managing during a pandemic has probably been one of the toughest experiences, Jeff, that I've ever seen principals lead through. And when we've pulled together each week in our masterminds, I'm just reminded that those same leadership qualities that helped leaders before the pandemic are the same ones that are helping them now. Their commitment to relationship, their building of trust, their follow through, even though they're managing things now that are so much harder than what they've had to manage before. So I just want to encourage you in the work that you're doing, that every small thing that you're doing, even if it's unseen, is so important. And Jeff, I just want to thank you for the work that you've continued to do, contributing to the work of Principals. I want to wish you a great holiday, because I know that when this episode comes out, we'll be looking at Christmas break. Any parting words before we say goodbye this week, Jeff?
Well, again, thank you for this opportunity. I would just echo your words to our listeners that never underestimate the impact or the influence that you have, whether it's remote or in person. You are valuable, and you make a difference every day in the lives of your teachers and your students and your community. And Principal Matters.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Principal Matters listeners. We'll talk to you next week. If you'd like other free resources like this one, you can check out all my posts at williamdparker.com.